Morning, Minister.
Morning.
Good news about the enrolments in the micro-credentials in the IADT. Is it a similar success story for the micro-credential courses in construction?
We are. The IAT construction is going quite well. We're working with the federal government at the moment with a view to doing a bit more work on the IAT construction to bring it in line really with the work that we're doing in our manufacturing centres of excellence. And one of the reasons we're doing that is we'd like to see it being a bit more responsive to modern methods of construction and to be a bit more engaged with industry in that area. So, yeah, it's doing some fantastic work at the IAT construction.
Can you quantify how well it's
I can.
compared to the technology courses?
Yeah. We'd have to come back to you with the figures, I think, on the micro credentials and
them.
things. Oh, you have them? Okay.
So, if I might help, the IAT. Sorry.
Okay. Right. No, I've got them. 47,000 enrolments in construction micro credentials and micro skills since November 2022.
So, sorry, that's 47,000 compared
47,000.
to 400,000?
Yeah, different sort of industry though, if you think about it. I mean, when you look at the IAT
if
digital...
If we're thinking about need in the workplace though, isn't construction an area of great need? And there's, 10% of people in the construction courses compared to the technology courses? Are my figures right?
Very different, and I will let Ms Reid come back on this, but it's a very different area. If you think about the IAT digital, for instance, if you in any job unrelated to the digital wanted to learn a bit about how artificial intelligence might influence your workplace in the future, there'd be a micro skill for you to do that. Whereas people who are doing the micro skills in construction are directly working in that industry. But Ms. Reid,
so just before you, Ms. Reid, I just want to clarify so I've got what the Minister said straight. The micro skills in construction are directly related to workforce, whereas the micro skills in technology could be workforce or could be general interest or general personal development?
Well, I'd suggest that every government department in New South Wales should be doing the micro skills on artificial intelligence through our IAT digital. I think it would be very useful for them to have their employees doing that, and in fact all of us, so that we understand where that's going and how it might be used. So I do think there's a broader application, but as I've said, we do think there is work to do in the IAT construction to actually boost it up to make it a real leader in modern construction methods.
And has that work started?
We are working with the Commonwealth on that at the moment.
Sorry, does that mean the work started or you're just in a discussion phase, preliminary to work starting?
Watch this space.
So preliminary, thank you very much. Minister, you've made some big announcements in relation to funding and fee-free TAFE places. How many of the fee-free TAFE places are for Certificate 3 trade qualifications?
Well, what we've seen in the transition between a lot of the courses which were being offered during the pandemic and following, for example, to now, is that there's been a big shift in that fee-free from quite short courses, quite micro skills, those sort of things, or short courses, things like, like there was huge enrolments for a while in the hand washing courses at TAFE for obvious reasons during that. So what we've actually
Sorry, Minister,
seen...
I'm just asking about how many of the fee-free places are for Certificate 3 trade qualifications?
So I need to give you the context of this because
Happy with just a figure, Minister.
What we've seen is that we have shifted a lot of the fee-free funding, and the fee-free funding from the Commonwealth has changed quite a bit. So we've directed that into the areas on our skills plan, the priority areas on our skills plan, the areas that are on the skills list, which are in high demand in the economy. So we can provide you with fee-free, and of course all in New South Wales government funding makes all apprenticeships and traineeships fee-free. So they're all fee-free. The Commonwealth fee-free funding goes to assist us with areas like the fee-free funding agreement for construction. So we've got fee-free enrolments for an additional 39 full qualifications relating to the construction and housing sector. And of those, 4,000 fee-free apprenticeship places and 1,600 pre-apprenticeship places. But I'd note that is in addition to people doing full trade qualifications. So I can take on notice for you the figures that'll be from the department.
Thank you.
About
That'd be very helpful.
The number of full qualifications that are being funded by through fee-free through a combination of state and federal funding.
Okay. And is it possible to separate which ones are funded by state and which ones are funded by federal?
We'll see what we can do for you, Ms.
All right.
Cully.
Thank you very much. Of the students who are enrolled in fee-free places, what's the completion rate?
Overall, I'll get the department to answer you the completion rate on fee-free places, but overall, we've got. Just want to give a bit of a context to this, because overall there is, and I want to acknowledge this, a lot of work to do in improving completions in apprenticeships. And New South Wales is slightly ahead of the rest of Australia on the last figures. Figures bounce around a bit, of course, but it's only just over half the people who start an apprenticeship and so who actually complete. So around 53,
can I just stop you
54%.
there just to clarify? You're saying half of the students who complete, who commence TAFE qualifications for an apprenticeship,
Sorry,
only
apprenticeship
half of those complete.
Apprenticeship qualifications overall, because it's not just TAFE.
Right.
So remember, there's private providers in this as well.
Okay, so
so
of TAFE, of people
so
who enrol in
The
TAFE,
current figure is
Minister,
around,
of people who enrol in TAFE trade qualifications,
there is
what's
a
the
separate figure.
percentage?
Yeah.
What's that completion rate?
There's a separate figure on that. I'll ask.
Yep.
I have to take the
department.
specific trade completion rate on notice, Ms. Carter,
Right.
but for apprenticeships generally, the latest data that we have is for apprentices that commenced in 2020, because we
Yes.
generally allow around 4 to
Yeah.
5 years to actually assess what that completion rate is.
Yes.
That completion rate was around 50.3%. That's 3.4% higher than the national average, and it is a slight increase compared to those who commenced in 2019. So we are seeing an upward trend. That's also the feedback that TAFE and other providers give us anecdotally, that they're seeing more people complete, but it is, as the Minister said, around half of those who are commencing complete.
And
So I'd love to be able to talk you through the reasons we're seeing why that's happening.
Well, before I am going to come to that,
okay.
but do you have figures? Do you collect figures for completion rates, private providers, completion rates,
Yes.
TAFE students?
Yes, we do.
And you have those figures?
I don't have them before me now. We can
But
take
you
that
can
on
provide
notice.
them. Thank you. And what work is TAFE engaged in to boost the completion rate?
The skills system overall, so the department, we're working on completions. We've done a couple of things with the federal government recently to get some additional funding, for instance, for the VTAS scheme, which is the scheme that provides funding assistance for regional apprentices to travel to their training. We've made 60% increase, I think, in the
So
per
just
kilometre.
on that issue of regional apprentices, how many regional apprentices would have to travel over 50 kilometres to be able to access their training?
There'll be quite a number. Our VTAS kicks in at 100.
So quite a number. Can we quantify
can we
that,
come
Minister?
back to that? But can I just run through the rest of the work on completions as the question you asked?
If we could just talk about each issue as we go, I think it's more useful. We can really understand it then. So how many regional apprentices have to travel more than 50 k's to access their training?
I think that's a question we need to take on notice, because
Okay.
it's obviously
Thank you.
dependent on
And
where
you said
people
the
live.
VTAS, what are the
And
VTAS
it-
criteria? When do they kick in?
110 kilometre trip for an apprentice
So
means that they can
how
then
long
get.
does it take the average apprentice to travel for 110 kilometres?
Can I just? We really need to come into some context on this.
Yep,
So
okay.
let's have a think about how this works in regional New South Wales. So regional apprentices generally, if they need to travel this sort of distance for their apprenticeship, will do block release. So they will go to a TAFE or a training provider in a centre. They'll do a week of block release, and instead of just doing a day a week at their local TAFE or training provider, we'll provide them.
in that block release,
we'll
how do they organise accommodation?
We provide them with subsidy for accommodation, and we provide them with a subsidy per kilometre subsidy for their travel, which helps them with their costs. It doesn't cover the whole costs, and as we all know, accommodation costs in regional areas are quite high now. In some cases, some employers will also assist their apprentice with that, but that's often up to the award and the agreement that they're on. So we do our best in regional areas and one of the reasons I come from a regional area, as you know, one of the reasons why I was very keen to see some of this federal funding going to increase that amount is because I was aware that it had not increased for a considerable length of time, and that cost pressure was forcing apprentices to feel like they needed to give up. So that's in regional areas. That's just one element.
If we can just...
I'll hear the point of order.
Interesting line of questioning from Ms Carter, but there does seem to be a bit of a pattern now interrupting the minister when he's trying to get out relevant information. So I wondered if we could just let him finish.
I do uphold the point of order. There's been a bit of that.
So,
If we could just
with
maybe-
respect, Minister, if we could perhaps have a conversation rather than a large dump of information from you that we then have to drill down into. It's going to be more productive.
Kind of hard in a question and answer estimate session. I'll have a conversation with you if you want individually later. I'd be very happy to.
A conversation is an exchange of information, Minister, which is
But,
what we're aiming for here. If I
let
could
me
ask
just
you a
briefly-
specific question, Minister.
Well, let me just briefly outline some of the other things that influence completions. So those cost pressures in regional areas are obviously a key point. We've been working with the Commonwealth on that. We're also very conscious of the fact that apprentices who get more contact in their first year, so that they know that there's somebody to talk to about any issues that they've got, are more likely to complete. So that's something which we've been talking to the Commonwealth about as well, and something that we're focusing on in our response. We've just done a review of the Apprentice and Traineeship Act, which has had 9,000 submissions to our review, and which has highlighted a number of those things that we need to be focusing on to improve that completion rate. So I would just want to let you know that the government and I are very focused on improving that completion rate over time, because we recognise that there is not Australia's birth rate and school completions means that there's not a huge number of people who are coming out of school who aren't doing some sort of further work. Obviously we need to access those ones that aren't, but then we need to make sure that we're not losing that initial training that we're doing with people as they come on, and that we improve that completion rate.
Minister, you talked about the importance of contact in the first year and the correlation between that and completion, and you said you were talking to the federal government about that. In concrete terms, what are you currently engaged in now to increase contact in the first year?
In the skills section of the Department of Education is working, has responsibility for making sure that we are in touch with, in some circumstances, with the apprentices, but there's a bit of a split responsibility, because the apprentice network providers from the Commonwealth also have a responsibility in that space, and we know that in some areas it's done really well. So group training companies, GTOs, seem to do the job quite well. We have a 90% completion rate in the government's 1,000 apprentices and traineeship program. So that's a phenomenally good completion rate, and that's because they're in workplace environments where they're getting that sort of support.
Sorry,
largely.
just a query about that. When did that program start?
The 1,000 apprentices and traineeship program was a commitment that Labor made at the last election.
So has it been running long enough, according to Mr Kuritz's figures, to be able to judge a completion rate yet?
Well, it has in the case of traineeships, because traineeships are
Sorry,
a much shorter
I
length
thought
of
we
time.
just were told that we needed to let things run for about 4 years to get a completion rate, and you're telling us now we've got a completion rate of this program. I don't understand how we're comparing apples with apples.
Well, it's when you look at the two components of it, they're apprentices and trainees. So traineeships are a shorter program.
Okay.
So the traineeships component
So we've got
of the
a
program,
traineeship completion rate, but we don't have an apprenticeship completion
I'll
rate
ask
yet?
the department to elaborate on the figure.
Mr Cruz might add to it, but the retention rate in the program is 91.5%.
But retention's different to completion, isn't it?
So the minister's right around traineeships. The apprenticeship part won't have been completed, but we're finding really strong retention at 91.5%.
But retention isn't completion, is it?
Not.
It's a bloody good indication. that you're
Yeah, I
gonna
know,
get there.
I agree. But what we really want to know is, for how many people is enrolling in TAFE actually helping them build the skills that they need to build their lives and Australia needs to build our future? And that's completion rates, isn't it, Minister?
In part, it is completion rates,
And
yes.
if we've only got
and
50% completing, don't we have
Yeah,
a real
we-
problem we have to look at?
we certainly have a situation that we inherited from the previous government, where we'd seen a massive drop in the number of people doing
Oh,
apprenticeships.
this tiny violin again.
And we certainly
Aren't we
have
past this
seen
now?
a situation where we weren't
Order. I'll
valuing
hear
those
order.
skills.
Order. I need to hear the point of order.
The point of order is that we have very early entered a pattern of not only now interrupting the minister when he's answering, but now, I don't know, offering some kind of odd commentary on the answers as they're given. I ask that you call the member to cease doing that?
I think it's all right for now, but I will remind all members it's quite early in the day. We've got a lot of time. Let's try and proceed in a more orderly manner.
Absolutely, thank you. Minister, if I could ask, you're familiar with the TEXA philosophy about higher education enrolments?
Do you want to be specific about your question?
Well, essentially, the TEXA philosophy is that in terms of entry requirements and support provided to students, that students really shouldn't be being enrolled in courses unless there's a reasonable prospect that they're going to graduate. And so I don't think anybody would think that a 50% enrolment in a TAFE course, a 50% graduation rate from an enrolment in a TAFE course is a reasonable prospect. So I'm just wondering what the TAFE philosophy is and how that compares to TEXA, and whether there's any attempt to align those two.
Can I again just say to you that it's TAFE, very important part of it, but it's also private training providers and it's employers taking people on. So absolutely would agree that we want to make sure that people understand the industry that they're getting into and that they're suited for it, and that's one of the reasons why we've been expanding the Education Pathways program. Education Pathways program, along with programs like REAP, take into the high schools the industry collaboration and give the kids a taster of those programs, and they give them experience, offer them opportunities to potentially do SBATs or programs like that, so that they're getting an early idea of whether or not the industry is going to suit. So that's one of the very important parts of our strategy to actually increase enrolment.
That demonstrates the impact of that on completion rates?
We know that in schools where the EPP is operating, that we're getting a significant increase in the number of young people who are going on and doing vocational qualifications.
Do we have data about completion rates of those young people?
Yeah. So in those 183 New South Wales public high schools across 11 regions with the Education Pathways program, in those schools, Ms Carter, we've seen a 30% increase in school-based apprenticeships and traineeships.
And do we have data about the completion of those school-based apprenticeships?
I don't have that in front of me, but...
Are you able to provide that on notice?
I'll see what I've got, yes.
And it is probably...
So does that mean you can, or...?
If I have that data, I'm happy to provide it.
Why would we not have the data about completion? If this is one of the things that we're doing to help student engagement and to maintain student engagement and help completion, why don't we have data about completion?
That program commenced in 2020, and so the first lot of apprentices, school-based apprentices, would be coming to an end. So let me see what data we have and take that on notice and come to you. But as I can tell you, having engaged with those high school principals with that program, they are very grateful for the $38 million ongoing commitment because their careers advisors, transition advisors, support teams are reporting to me as secretary that the opportunities for their students through school-based apprenticeships and traineeships and support has really grown.
Great.
Let me get you the completion.
Thank you. And with respect to completions generally, do we have figures about the percentage rate of completions in the metropolitan area as compared to the regional areas?
For that particular program?
For completions across TAFE generally?
For completions in apprenticeships, do you want to define it as?
Yeah, all right, completions in apprenticeships.
We can
that would
take
be,
that on.
And any trade qualifications, that would be. And do we have data on the completion rate for smart and skilled funded training by qualification level?
Private, can I just, apologies, clarify, Ms Carter, are you referencing private providers? Because Smart and Skilled historically has funded TAFE and non-TAFE private providers.
Well, can we have both?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, thank you. And which qualifications have the lowest completion rate?
Can I ask the department to answer that?
We might have to take
that on
well.
notice and find that one out.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has generally been, Ms Carter, the qualifications with the lowest completion rates has generally been those that don't necessarily align strongly to an employment outcome. So they're the ones that generally might be a Certificate 3 in project management, where a student might actually be enrolling in a course to actually do a couple of units of competencies or some of the actual training modules within that, and they never have an intent to actually complete the full qualification. So that may be the reason why particular
and micro-credentialing would address that issue, wouldn't it, if people
does
can
to
pick
an
up those
extent.
competencies individually?
In some part.
In some cases, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Is this an area that we
And-
should be looking at to make sure
Yeah,
that
it is
those
actually.
competencies are available as
Well,
micro-credentials?
It's something which has been being looked at in terms of skills passports and those sort of things
And
to try
where
and
are we with
stackable
that work?
skills credentials. The Commonwealth has that at the moment.
Okay, do we
Um,
have any role in that, or it's all the
We do
Commonwealth?
through skills ministers and
Okay.
through
And
our
what work are we
department's
doing on it?
engagement. Interestingly, New South Wales did do quite a lot of work on it, and we handed over all our IP when the Commonwealth said they wanted to do a national one. We handed it over to them to take it on and develop it further.
Thank you.